Hello and welcome to the 33rd video in the PHP e-commerce series. My name is Curtis and this is Free Skills. Well, we left off in the last video with charging the credit cards, which is great. And we also added the transaction to our database. But one thing we didn't do was update the inventory. Obviously, if someone buys something and the credit card goes through, we want that to update our inventory automatically. We don't want to manually have to go in and edit each product that's sold. So in this video, we are going to have our thank you page code update our inventory for us. So let's jump right into the code here. So the first thing that we want to do is we are going to pull up our thank you page. We are also going to pull up our helpers.php, and let's go ahead and pull up our details modal as well. These are the three files we're going to be working in this video. So the first thing that we want to do is in our thank you page, we want to look at this try block, this try catch block. And what we have in our try catch block, so we have the ability to update the cart, and we insert that into our transactions, and that happens right here. So I'm just going to add a comment right here just to say update cart, and then I'm going to go up just a few lines, give myself some room, and up above that I'm going to add a comment that says adjust inventory. Okay, so to adjust the inventory, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and run a query, and we're going to call this item queue, and we're going to say db query. Okay, and inside of our query we're going to say select star from cart where ID equals cart ID. Okay, once we have that, we're just going to say item results, and we'll go ahead and get the associative array here, and the parameter we're going to pass into that is our item queue. Now that we have that, we have our items, so we're going to go ahead and create an array here from our items, and we need to remember that's JSON encoded, so we need to run JSON decode. Okay, and that's a pre-built PHP function, and it takes two parameters, or at least one, but an optional second parameter. The first parameter is the JSON that we're going to decode, and in our case we're going to grab iResults, and we're going to grab from that items. Okay, and so where that's well, I'll show you where that's coming from in just a moment, but for our second parameter we're just going to set that to true, and what that does is if this is true, it forces this to decode this into an associative array instead of an object. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at our cart. So here is that items that we're returning. So here's our object, or our JSON encoded string here, and we're going to turn that into an associative array with that JSON decode. So that's what that does right there on line 45. And then what we want to do is we want to do a for each statement, or for each loop rather, and we're going to say for each items as item. Okay, open and close our curly braces, give ourselves some room, and then I'm going to create an empty array, and what I'm going to do is call this new sizes. Okay, and we will be populating that array, and so what I'm going to do is say item ID is equal to item ID, which is coming from this right here. Okay, so now we have our item ID. So now we're going to go ahead and do another query for our product. So we're going to say product queue, and we're going to say db query, and inside of there we're just going to select sizes. We only need sizes, so we'll say select sizes from products where ID equals, and this time we're going to tell it item ID. Okay, so there's our query. So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to just say product equals my SQLi fetch associative array. We're going to pass it that product queue. Okay. Now, I don't really like, I'm going to be honest, I don't like how I did the sizes in the table. This string right here, not here, but inside the products table, this sizes, let's get to it here. This is so close to a JSON string, we should have just made this a JSON string to begin with, and then we could use JSON encode and JSON decode. But I didn't do that, and I didn't want to go back and redo a bunch of stuff and reshoot videos. And also I just wanted to kind of show a different way of doing things, just to give us a little bit more of a challenge than using the JSON encode and decode. So I went with this, but if I were to do this over again, I may or may not do the sizes like this. And I said that all along, but it's like that now. So what we're going to do is, what I want to do is have the ability to just have sizes as an array, and I want to be able to have like sizes to array function, and I just want to pass in the JSON string. So in our case it would be product sizes. Okay, and then what I want to happen is for that to be, this sizes to be an array then of that, from that string. And earlier in the project we've kind of done that by using explodes, and exploding by a comma, and then going through and looping and exploding by a colon. And we're going to do the same thing, but what we're going to do, just to make it easier in our project, and I'm sorry about all the noise, I'm down in my basement because I'm going on vacation. I want to get these videos shot before I left. So anyway, what we want to do is create two different functions, and the first function is going to be the sizes to array. Okay, and that's going to accept a string. So I'm just going to put in a variable there called string, and then what we want to do is create an array here, and we'll just call it sizes array, and we'll do explode, and the first one we're going to explode by is a comma, and then for the second parameter, well, what are we going to explode? Well, we're going to explode this string. Okay, so once we have that sizes array, I want to go ahead and create an empty return array here, and I'm just going to make that an empty array for the moment. And then what I'm going to do is do a for each loop and say for each sizes array as size, and we'll open and close our curly braces, and then we're going to say, we're going to take that array and we're going to add to it each time. So the first thing that we need to do is create another array here, and we're just going to call that S. Alright, so we'll do an explode, and this time we're going to explode by colon. And then what are we going to explode? Well, we're going to explode size. Okay. Okay, so then what we want to do is add to our return array and to do that, we'll just do the array syntax equals there, and what we're going to do is actually stuff that with another array, and we're going to say, okay, for this array we're going to put size, and that will be S0, and then we're going to also give it a quantity, okay, and that will be S1 for the first or the second element of the array. Okay, so once we have that array, we're going to jump out of this for each loop here, and we're just going to return the return array. Okay, so now we have this function that will loop through our string and make that into an array, and then ultimately it's going to create an array of arrays. Okay, so for each size there'll be a quantity for each element in that array, and then that gets here and returned from this function. So here now we ran this function and we passed it in that string, and now this sizes should be that will be an array of sizes. Let's go ahead while we're still here in the help. Let's go back to the helpers file. Let's go ahead and create our other function that we're going to need, and this function is going to be sizes to string, because when we put this back in the database, we need this to be a string again. So we're just going to go ahead and create a simple function to take care of that. So the first thing we're going to do is create an empty string here. We'll just call it size string. We'll set that equal to an empty string. Alright, and then we're going to say for each sizes as size. Okay, now this is what we're passing in right here. We're passing it in an array this time instead of a string, and then we can run a for each loop on it. So inside of that for each loop, what we want to do is say size string, and then we're going to concatenate onto it size, and then remember we separate those by a colon, so we're going to concatenate on a colon, and then we're going to concatenate on the quantity, so size quantity. Okay, and then we're going to concatenate on a comma. So that will build up the string. It'll go through each size in the array and build a string, and this is what we're expecting in the database. Okay, the next thing I'll do is jump out of this for each loop, and I want to I'm just going to create a variable. I'm going to call it trimmed, and we're just going to write trim. We're going to write trim the size string. Okay, and what are we going to trim off that for the second parameter? The trailing right comma, because this last time it goes through the for each loop, it's going to add this comma on the end, and we don't really necessarily want that. So the last thing that we're going to do here is we're just going to return trimmed, and we could have done this all in one line here, just return this, but I thought I'd separate that just to make it a little more clear what's going on here. Alright, so we'll save that out, and now we have both of these functions. So we have a sizes to array and a sizes to string that we can use. So we're still inside of our for each loop. So we have our sizes array, and we're just going to now for each sizes as size, we're going to check something, and what we want to do is we want to check if the size itself, so size, if that is equal to item size. Okay, so if these are equal, then we want to do something. If those are equal, then we are going to, let's just create a new quantity here. So we're going to say quantity is going to be size quantity, okay, minus item quantity. So basically the total in the database minus the amount that was ordered, the quantity of that item. Now these are only going to be if the sizes match, okay? So we don't want to affect the other sizes, okay? And then what we're going to do is create the, we're going to add on to the new sizes array. We're going to add to that an array, and inside of that array we're just going to do size, and that's going to be size, and then we're going to add to it quantity, and that will be set to our new quantity, so that Q array right there. Alright, so if the size is of the product is equal to the size of the item, then we're going to create a new quantity. We're going to take the quantity in our database and subtract from it the quantity that was ordered, and then we're adding that to the new sizes array. So if that doesn't match though, we need to have an else statement here, because if it doesn't match, we need to still add to our new sizes array. So what we're going to do is say new sizes, because we need the rest of them put back in the database. So we'll say, oops, an array. Alright, so just kind of do the same syntax here. So this will be size, okay, and then we'll put in quantity, but instead of giving it the new quantity, we're just going to give it the original quantity, so it doesn't change what's in the database if it's not the product that it's on in the loop. Okay, so now we've built up, we're going to loop through each one of these items, and then we're going to loop through each size, and we're going to rebuild the new size for each item. Once that happens, what we want to do is we're going to jump out of this for each on the sizes loop here, and we're going to go ahead and create our new sizes string, and we've already created the function for that. So we're just going to say size string equals, and then it was sizes to string, and we need to pass it our new sizes array. So that's going to return a string. So then we can just run our query, so db query, okay, and we'll say update products, set sizes equal to size string, where ID equals item ID, and that's it. This right here, from here to here, will update our database. So I know that we went through that kind of quick, and it may not make a lot of sense. We're doing a lot of looping and we have these functions, but just read through, practice reading through this code and look through line by line, you know, and there could be ways that we can optimize this and do it better, but this way we'll get it done. And so let's go ahead now and test this and see if it works. So what we need to do is we need to look at, first of all, I don't have any items in my shopping cart, so I want to add some items to my shopping cart. So let's look at these high heels, and so on size 14 we have 2 pairs available. So if I select 2 pairs here on size 14, and I add those to my cart. And let's also do another product just to test this. Let's add these other shoes, and let's pick a quantity here. So there's 2 available in size 8, so let's add 1 of those. Okay, so if I go to my shopping cart now, we have the maximum amount of high heels, so that should take size 14 down to 0. And then this 8, there are 2 available, and if we get 1 of those, it should take this 8 down to 1. So let's go ahead and check out. Okay. So this will take us to our thank you page. We didn't get any kind of errors here. If you got errors when you got to the thank you page, then check your syntax and debug it. Luckily we didn't get any errors now. So now if I go back to my shopping cart, it says it's empty, and let's go ahead now and look at our shoes and see if those quantities are updated. So if I look here, if I go to sizes, you see that 14 is now 0 available. So if I try to get one, it won't let me. There are only 0 available. And then let's look at the other. Yep, there's only 1 available left of the size 8. So our inventory is updated and it didn't touch any of the other inventory. So that's exactly what we want it to do. But we don't want to show sizes that are down to 0. So we'll do one more quick update here, and that's just to not show these if they're available 0. So in order to do that, we're going to jump over to our details modal code, and we're just going to add an if statement here. And the if statement is going to be when we're echoing out, we're in this for each loop, and we're echoing out our sizes here, and we're saying we're echoing out an option. Well, we can actually wrap that in an if statement. So we're going to say if available is greater than 0. So go ahead and put this inside our if statement. Okay, so now it's only going to print out this option if the available is greater than 0. So let's go ahead now and take a look at that. I'll save it, go back to the front, and we'll refresh the page. And so now size 14 doesn't even show up in our options here. Okay, so now that our detail modal is updated and we're only showing options that are available, later we'll go ahead and create the ability to update that and maybe even show warnings when inventory gets low and things of that nature in the dashboard of the back end. So we'll work on that in another video, but I think I'm going to wrap this video up now. And so if you've enjoyed this, please comment, like, and subscribe, and share it. Share it with friends that you think might benefit from watching this series. And yeah, if you guys find any bugs or errors, please let me know, and we will continue this in the next video, and I'll see you guys later.